What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today was game day, guys. I just got back from seeing Captain America Brave New World. Got this sick cup. Isn't that cool? I don't know, I'm just very fascinated by it, but I'm also a big Red Hulk fanboy, so there is that. Anyways, before I get started, I just want to clarify this will be a spoiler-free review. No spoilers are going to be discussed. Anyone that watches my channel knows the rules. If it's in the trailer, it's fair game. If it's not in the trailers, it's not going to be talked about. So yeah, I'm just going to start right off by saying I'm going to have the unpopular opinion in this, at least on the critic side. The audience side seems to be eating this up a lot more. May go up or down depending on, it's the weekend and next month or so progresses. But at the moment, it's sitting at a solid 82% for the audience rating. And honestly, I'm going to be more at the audience on this one. This was a very, very fun movie. It is the weakest Captain America movie, but you also got to remember that's not really a negative, because if you think about it, the Captain America trilogy, many consider to be the best trilogy in the MCU. Winter Soldier and Civil War considered like two of the greatest comic book sequels ever made, two of the best Marvel films, superhero films ever. I mean, goes on and on. So, walking into this movie, I mean, I was very excited. I was cautiously optimistic. The reviews, again, as I just mentioned, they haven't been all that great. But I walked out of it, guys, and I gotta say, it lived up to really what I expected. It is a very fun Marvel movie. As a Captain America movie, it could have been worked on a little bit, but in a lot of ways, this is just as fan servicey as you want it to be, but it also doesn't feel forced or shoehorned in, which I think was a really great way to go about it. I'm just going to go and start off by saying Sam Wilson. I'm sold as him as Captain America, guys. I mean, I don't understand the hate that this man gets, that Anthony Mackie gets, for basically taking on the mantle of Captain America. It's been done in the comics, and I'm not saying that the comics are 100% perfect. I know some people, the comics are like sacred text, they can do no wrong, and it must be followed down to a T. I'm not that guy. I can understand that there are instances where, yes, comic book property or comic books, there are terrible comic books, just like there's terrible movies and video games and all that stuff. So I say all that to say Sam Wilson absolutely killed it, or Anthony Mackie killed it as Sam, I guess. He really owns the role of Captain America. Never once watching this movie did I feel like there was a lack of star power, or did I feel as though Anthony Mackie just really underwhelmed in his performance, that he couldn't be the lead man in this franchise moving forward. I was really sold on him. I liked his relationship with Danny Ramirez's, I think his name is Joaquin Torres, if I'm not mistaken, the kind of protege that's basically the Kid Falcon or whatever is all I had to call him. I like their chemistry well enough. I do think with Ramirez's character, he just gets a little too jokey. I mean, this is not a jokey film, and that's going to be one of my positives I touch on here in a second. But the humor that is there, I would say at least half of it didn't really work that well. Pretty much none of the humor that really came out of Joaquin's mouth was all that funny, in my opinion. It just felt like that very forced, cheesy level Marvel humor. But, at the end of the day, they did have great chemistry together. I wouldn't mind seeing Joaquin in the upcoming Doomsday or Secret Wars movie, which, if I had to guess, would be probably his next appearance. It's just, I really hope they dial back on his humor just a little bit. I did like to see Isaiah Bradley in this movie. Once again, the actor, I can't think of his name, does a phenomenal job playing this character. He really is given a little bit of depth, and he's not really explored as fully as I would have liked for him to be explored, but at the end of the day, he gave in a great performance. A lot of the emotional beats from this movie does come from him, which, I thought was really great, as well as Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford, this man's 82. He's playing like he's 62 at most. He looks like he's having the time of his life in this role. If you've been watching the interviews with him, Harrison Ford just seems to be eating the scenery up. He's hulking out at Comic Cons. He's interacting with fans. This is like the happiest I've ever seen this man doing a movie, actually. So he seems to just really be loving and enjoying this, and just, I don't know what it is about this movie, this character, maybe the atmosphere, whatever, but this just seems like he was born to carry on this legacy of Thunderbolt Ross that was left behind by the late, great William Hurt. It is sad, the circumstances, but it is cool to see Harrison Ford in the MCU saying lines like Avengers, Captain America. And let's be real, we never thought we'd hear that. But, yeah, the action is a big plus as well in this movie. The Red Hulk fight, and I'm not going to get into any spoilery detail. For me personally, it felt a little underwhelming, and I'll touch on that more in my negative section. But the majority of the action as a whole, I thought was really, really well done. My favorite fight scene, or my favorite action scene, you could say, was there's like this aerial fight. You've kind of seen it in the trailer where Sam's got his mask on. Takes place in the ocean near where Tiamat from the Eternals, a dead celestial body, is. Just a really fun action sequence. Again, very Top Gun inspired. Just, some shoddy CGI here and there during that sequence, but just overall, I was really locked in for that. The hand-to-hand fight scenes are some homages that are like straight up out of the Winter Soldier that I thought was cool. But that said, guys, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like the action scenes were amazing. There were a couple, like that one 1 minute fight scene that they showed. It was like a clip online where he's fighting this really, it's like this muscular white dude. It was pretty clunky for the most part, but again, that was kind of an isolated incident. The majority of the action, I would say, is solid. Not maybe Captain America level up to par, but it's really solid, and at times even great action scenes throughout the film. As for the villain, who, this is not going to be a spoiler because he was already in the trailer. They've already had him at interviews. We already know he's in it. Tim Blake Nelson returns as the leader from the Incredible Hulk film, and honestly, I thought he did a really good job for the most part. He really, I wish they'd done a little bit more with him as a character, but really at its core, he's far from the worst villain. Plays, think almost like Baron Zemo, maybe like not quite on that same level, kind of the performances, or kind of the role Zemo had in Civil War. The leader is very much kind of in the shadows. I'm kind of playing things like, playing politicians and all that by a string, you could say. Not a big fan of his design. I like the design. I don't know why they decided to go with the design they did end up going with. I thought Marvel officially like a month or two ago released an image of the leader and it looked much better, much more comic accurate. I don't know where they got that. I don't know why they obviously decided seemingly last second to change that design, but it is what it is. He's still a decent villain for the most part. And then the way that they play up Red Hulk, he's not going to be in the movie as much as I think some people will think if they're looking at this from the perspective of the marketing, the advertisements, all that stuff is literally just marketing this man like he's the second lead only to Sam. It's insane. It's crazy, but it also kind of worked because Red Hulk's been a highly hyped up character, you could say. And for the most part, it's fun, the scenes that he's in, but I was a little underwhelmed, not going to lie. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, I guess the really just other positives I could say for this movie is there is some good messaging in this movie. There's a line, and I'm not going to give away spoilers, that Sam says to Ross near the end of the film, just basically involving unity, that I thought was a really good line, especially in today's political climate. But all that to say, that's going to kind of lead me into some of my more negative aspects of the movie. And I will say, like a lot of people have said before, the script for this movie is just not quite there at times. I think probably my biggest issue with this movie is stuff like the leader, how he got his powers, what his motivations are. Like, they go over it so fast, and the writing just isn't good enough to where I feel like I'm going to have to watch this movie again, which I might be seeing it again in the next few days with my dad. But I just like sitting there watching it, just kind of, I guess, they go over it so fast, like just a blink and you miss it line or two. And I don't know, it just seemed, the writing in general just seemed to be the biggest weak point of this movie. I was really hoping for just a little bit of tighter writing, and I just didn't get that with this movie. But then again, considering the reshoots that they've done, considering that apparently the writer they originally got for this movie isn't like, a world-renowned writer, even by Marvel standards. I mean, I can forgive it. Again, at the end of the day, it's a fun movie. It did surpass my expectations, but I do wish the writing had been a bit tighter. And then kind of what I mentioned earlier, the Red Hulk fight near the end, I kind of wish that they had done a little more with it, and that's all I'm going to say. Not going to say any more than that. I just, didn't hate it, and I think it was for the most part, good fight scene. I know a lot of people were concerned that it was going to make Sam out to be, like, how is this man with no super soldier serum going up against Red Hulk? Like, a lot of people are kind of worried about that, but I think the way they played it was really as well as they could have done. But still, I just kind of wish it lasted just like 2 or 3 minutes more. But, again, I understand that's kind of a nitpick. And then, yeah, last but not least, again, some of the humor just doesn't land. And I do appreciate the fact that this isn't a very, humor-filled Marvel movie. This is very much boots on the ground, that very level of storytelling that I really appreciate. But, at the end of the day, the humor attempts, like, I would say there's about as much attempts at humor in this as there is in, say, the Winter Soldier or Civil War, for context. But I feel like it's worse at times just because the humor does not land as well. Specifically, again, from Danny Ramirez's Falcon character, just, was kind of the big gripe that I had with that character as a whole. But, I mean, all that to say, what I said earlier, kind of comparing it to Winter Soldier, this is very much so. And I don't want to take this the wrong way. I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way and think that I'm like dissing this movie, because clearly I am in the positive camp of this film if you haven't been paying attention. But I will say that this movie just kind of seems like it's a diet version of Captain America the Winter Soldier. There are some plot beats that really, plot beats, even action set pieces that really feel familiar. Like we've kind of seen this before in that movie. But at the same time, it's not like The Force Awakens is to A New Hope, where it's like beat for beat, plot point for plot point, nothing like that. It's just you can kind of see the similarities, and at times they're really homages, and other times I'm kind of like, you're kind of playing a little too close to the familiar fire, so to speak. But, at the end of the day, I was invested in the conspiracy aspect of the movie. Again, as y'all know, I much more prefer a boots on the ground, serious, grounded storytelling of like the Captain America films, even Spider-Man, than I am the big multiverse ending events. I mean, I like those stories. Like, obviously, I love Deadpool and Wolverine, love No Way Home, but I do prefer the much more realistic, grounded approach like Daredevil's, Batman's, Captain America, stuff like that. The acting, the performances, specifically Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford, I think are really, really strong. The action is really solid as well, a lot of fun. The CGI, I would say 95% of it does look good, and there's just that 5% specifically in that aerial fight scene that kind of looks a little shoddy, but it's not that big of a deal. It's only like maybe 4 or 5 shots in the movie where I felt that way. And again, the movie does have some really good emotional beats. But yeah, that's all I got for today, guys. I'm going to go ahead and give this movie a rating of 7.5 out of 10. I know, again, you're probably going to just think I'm crazy, I'm tripping, whatever. I really enjoyed this movie. And I think if you go into it with the right mindset, you will too. My biggest problem, I guess, at the end of the day, in terms of like this being called a Captain America movie, is the fact that we see very little, Sam doesn't really have like an arc, a meaningful arc that he goes on for this movie. Like, you can tell they're trying to do something with it, and I don't know if it just got lost in the reshoots or what, but I just don't feel like they quite gave him enough. I mean, I feel like Thunderbolt Ross had more development than him, and, just kind of stuff like that that really, I think, kind of took me out of the movie. But as a whole, guys, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think you guys will too if you go in with the right mindset. Just know that it's a really good Marvel film, but as a Captain America film, it might leave you lacking just a little bit. But yeah, just feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and share if you like this video. I'll probably do a spoiler review at some point once I watch the film a second time, catch more Easter eggs, details, all that stuff. But yeah, hope you all have a great day. Let me know if you go and check out Brave New World this weekend, and I'll catch y'all later. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you liked what you've seen here and you want to see more, please feel free to like, subscribe, share, and check out my other videos in the link in the description down below, and I will see you all later.